Guide Indian and European Classical Literature by Dr. A. Kalam. CC2. European Classical Literature. To Oedipus the King. Sophocles' biography of Sophocles. Sophocles was considered one of the three greatest playwrights of classical Greek theatre, the others being Aeschylus and Euripides. Born in 496 BC in the rural suburb of Colonus near Athens, he lived there through most of the 5th century BC, dying in 406 BC. He won fame by defeating the playwright Aeschylus for a prize in tragic drama at Athens in 468 BC. Only 7 of his complete plays have survived to reach the modern era, but he wrote more than 101 first prize in 24 contests. Best known are his 3 Theban plays, Antigone, Oedipus Rex, or Oedipus the King, and Oedipus at Colonus. Surprisingly, one of his defeats in the drama competition is said to have occurred the year when he presented Oedipus the King. He is credited with changing Greek drama by adding a third actor, reducing the role of the chorus, and paying greater attention to character development. Reliable contemporary reports revealed that Sophocles was charming, handsome and wealthy. He had a wide circle of friends, among them Pericles and Herodotus, the great historian to whom he wrote a poem. The Greeks regarded Sophocles as the kind of tragic Homer, hailed him as the favorite of the gods, and honored him with state sacrifices long after his death. Greek tragedy was solemn, poetic and philosophic in tone. Most Greek tragedies were marked by certain common elements. They consisted of a series of dramatic episodes linked by choral odes, chanted by an onstage chorus of 12 to 15 persons. This chorus often commented on the dramatic action in their own fashion, the pattern of events and the behavior of the central characters. They sang, danced and recited the choral odes and lyrics to the accompaniment of such musical instruments as the lyre. Men played both men and women's parts, and the 3 central actors shared all the roles in a play. The use of masks was a way to surrender or submerge one's own identity. Aristotle's definition about Greek drama was 200. The best guide Indian and European classical literature 201, given in his great critical treatise, The Poetics, circa 335 BC. It deals with theories of Greek tragedy as seen in the finest plays of Aeschylus, Sophocles and Euripides. These principles of classical Greek tragedy have influenced almost all the later tragic dramatists of the Western world. Though modern tragedy often deviates widely from the Greek classical norms, it still acknowledges the universality of Aristotle's fundamental concepts, especially his ability to pinpoint those elements in human nature that are responsible for tragedy in life. Aristotle's view of tragedy. In his Poetics, Aristotle claims that comedy shows man to be worse than what he is in real life. In tragedy, however, man is represented as better than he is in actual life. He defines tragedy as an imitation of an action that is serious, complete and of a certain magnitude, in a language embellished with each kind of artistic ornament in the form of action, not narrative, with incidents arousing pity and fear, and has as its goal a catharsis of emotions. Thus, he identifies 6 major features of tragic drama: plot, character, diction, thought, spectacle and melody. The myth of Oedipus, the great-grandson of Cadmus, founder of Thebes, was Laius, whose wife Jocasta bore him a child later to be named Oedipus. According to the oracle, their child was fated to kill his father and marry his mother. Laius and Jocasta, knowing the misfortune, were hoping to escape from the gods' will and decided to kill the baby so that they might evade the terrible fate. They would not commit the sin of infanticide themselves, but they would assign the deed to a shepherd who should abandon the child in the mountains. They even thought of piercing the baby's feet so that it could not even crawl to safety. As the story goes, the shepherd persuaded another shepherd to take the baby to the Corinthian court, away from Thebes, where the childless king would gladly rear the baby as his own son. He gave him the name Oedipus, which means swollen foot, in commemoration of his painful wound. When Oedipus grew to manhood, still believing that the king and queen of Corinth were his real parents, he heard about the prophecy. Like his parents, he tried to escape the oracle and left his supposed parents never to set an eye on them again. While wandering, he killed a supposed stranger on the road, which will later on turn out to have been his own father, King Laius. His travels brought him to Thebes. The city at that point was roused in fear and confusion at the news that an unknown traveler had murdered their king. Furthermore, the Thebans were threatened by the Sphinx, a terrible monster who would destroy every man who failed to answer her cunning question. After Laius' death, Creon had taken over the king's authority, and he made an announcement that as reward the person who would solve the Sphinx riddle should become king of Thebes and take Jocasta, the former queen, as his wife. The riddle's question was, what is it that walks on 4 legs in the morning, on 2 at noon, and on 3 on the evening? Oedipus alone was able to give the right answer, which was, man, who as an infant crawls on all 4s, and in old age walks leaning on a stick. Oedipus was thus received in the royal house not only as the welcome savior but also as the new king. Not knowing that the oracle was running its course, he married Jocasta, the widow queen, and sons and daughters were born to them. Some 15 years went by in seeming prosperity. The god's oracle had been fulfilled. For Oedipus had in fact killed his father and married his mother. But parricide and the incestuous relationship to his mother affront the superior and universal laws. For such an offense pestilence and famine tortured the people of Thebes, and they prayed to the gods and cried to their king for help and deliverance. At this point the play begins. Major characters: King Oedipus, the king of Thebes. A man ruled by a fate, according to which he is to murder his father and marry his own mother. Oedipus is unaware of the fact that he has already committed these dreadful acts. He is highly intelligent, short of temper, and impetuous. Jocasta, the queen of Thebes. She is Oedipus' wife as well as his mother, but is as ignorant about the latter fact as is Oedipus. She is a good and loving queen who does not hesitate to speak her mind. Creon, Jocasta's brother. He is a responsible and loyal Theban citizen. Judicious, rational, and consistent in nature, he acts as a foil to the more impulsive Oedipus. Tiresias, the blind prophet of Thebes. Tiresias has been blessed with immortality. He is the only one in Thebes who is aware of the facts of Oedipus' life. Chorus. The chorus plays a very important role in Greek tragedies by providing background information, commenting on the action of the play and revealing the psychological and emotional tenor of the action. In Oedipus the King, the chorus is formed of Theban citizens who witness Oedipus' tragedy. They are a link between the actors and the audience because they voice the emotions, anxieties, and concerns of the people watching the tragedy. Oedipus the King 202. The best guide Indian and European classical literature. 203 minor characters. A Corinthian shepherd, an old man from Corinth, who brings the news of the Corinthian king's death. He is also the man who had presented the infant Oedipus to the Corinthian ruler after he had been abandoned by the Theban shepherd. A Theban shepherd, another old man who was a confidant of King Laius. He is the sole witness of Laius' murder and also the one to hand over the infant Oedipus to the Corinthian shepherd. Although both these shepherds are minor characters in the tragedy, they do play a major part in unraveling the mystery of Oedipus' birth and Laius' murder. The two daughters of Oedipus, Antigone and Ismene, make an appearance in the play although they are not assigned any dialogue. Other minor characters, a messenger, priests, and attendants story of the play. At the beginning of the play, the citizens of Thebes are suffering terribly, dying from plague. A group of priests comes to the royal palace to ask for help from Oedipus, their king who once saved them from the tyranny of the terrible Sphinx. Oedipus has already sent his brother-in-law, Creon, to the oracle of the god Apollo to find out what can be done. A little later Creon returns with the oracle's news. For the plague to be lifted from the city, the murderer of Laius must be discovered and punished. The oracle claims that the murderer is still living in Thebes. Oedipus curses the unknown murderer and swears that he will find and punish him. He orders the people of Thebes to give any information they have about the death of Laius. Oedipus sends for Tiresias, the blind prophet, to help with the investigation. Tiresias comes but refuses to tell Oedipus what he has seen in his prophetic visions. Oedipus accuses Tiresias of playing a part in Laius's death. Tiresias grows angry and says that Oedipus is the cause of the plague. He is the murderer of Laius. As the argument escalates, Oedipus accuses Tiresias of plotting with Creon to overthrow him while Tiresias hints at other terrible things that Oedipus has done. Convinced that Creon is plotting to overthrow him, Oedipus declares his intention to banish or execute his brother-in-law. Jocasta and the chorus believe Creon is innocent and beg Oedipus to let Creon go. He relents reluctantly, still convinced of Creon's guilt. Jocasta tells Oedipus not to put any stock in what prophets and seers say. She also tells him the prophecy she once received, that Laius, her first husband, would be killed by their own son. And yet Laius was killed by strangers and her own infant son was left to die in the mountains. But her description of where Laius was killed, a triple crossroad, worries Oedipus. It is the same place where Oedipus once fought with several people and killed them, and one of whom fit the description of Laius. He asks that the surviving eyewitness to Laius's murder be brought to him. He tells Jocasta that oracles have played a big part in his life as well. He received a prophecy that he would kill his father and sleep with his mother, which is why he left Corinth, the city he was raised in, and never returned. At that time an old messenger arrives from Corinth with the news that Oedipus's father, King Polybus, has died of old age. This news encourages Oedipus. It seems his prophecy might not come true, but he remains worried because his mother is still alive. The messenger tells him not to worry. The king and queen of Corinth were not his real parents. The messenger himself brought Oedipus as a baby to the royal family as a gift after a shepherd found the boy in the mountains and gave him to the messenger. The shepherd was the same man Oedipus has already sent for, the eyewitness to Laius's murder. Jocasta begs Oedipus to abandon his search for his origins, but Oedipus insists he must know the story of his birth. Jocasta cries out in agony and leaves the stage. The shepherd arrives but does not want to tell what he knows. Only under threat of death he reveals that he disobeyed the order to kill the infant son of Laius and Jocasta and instead gave that baby to the messenger. That baby was Oedipus, who in fact killed his father, Laius, and married his mother. Oedipus realizes that he has fulfilled his awful prophecy. Queen Jocasta kills herself and Oedipus, in a fit of grief, gouges out his own eyes. Blind and grief-stricken Oedipus bemoans his fate. Creon, after consulting an oracle, grants Oedipus's request and banishes him from Thebes. Short suggestion for final examination will be provided in the month of September-October. You can get it after sending a WhatsApp message to mobile no.7432860010.